Hello. Hello. Hi. Sorry, my throat's still a little rough. But hi. Hi. Hi, Fudge. Hi, Leona. You said first, but you're technically second. Fudge was first. Anyway. Hi. Hello. How's it going? Happy Thursday. It is DK64 o'clock. And we do plan to finish the game today, hopefully. Because I only have the final stage, which I don't think will take that long. There's a good chance we finish this game early and I have to play something else for a little bit. Maybe some Pokopia. I don't know. Don't know. We will see. Anyway, how you guys doing? I'm still a little under the weather. For the most part, it's just like very slight sniffles and a little bit of a scratchy throat. So like I don't feel super sick, which is the good thing. I just do feel a tiny bit sick. That's about it. But hopefully everybody's doing okay. But for those of you guys that are here, you guys might see a little something in the corner of the chat. I started a community challenge for you guys where you guys can actually unlock a preview of my new outfit. So for those of you guys that really want to see it, y'all can put your channel points away for it. I gave it enough time to where it should be reachable on average without much like worry, so y'all just need to be here and put your channel points away for it. That's about it. You're amazing. No, you're amazing. Hi, Leona. Mwah. Just for you. Mwah. Oh, there's our first contribution. You can do up to 2K, but I am pretty sure some of you guys might not have a lot because you guys keep using points. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. Like, I just want to get the game in. I just want to get to play on DK64. I want to get into it. So let's get to it then. Let me stop this music again. We go there, we go there. Don't worry, you don't see nothing but a black screen. Because I have it paused until I do this. Okay. Okay, so the only thing I do know about this is I need to turn in my blueprints, because I remember in the beginning of the game, they said the blueprints are for K.Rool's contraption, so they'll help me out with the final ballot or something. I don't know. Donkey Kong. What? So we're at 83%, but I think I have not turned in like a bunch of blueprints. I don't know how many, but we'll find out. Hopefully enough to get us up to 199. I don't know. Wait, have I done everything in this area? I just thought about it. Did I get everything? I'm missing one with Chunky. Oh no, we're not done. What am I missing with Chunky? I'm actually genuinely curious. I'm gonna look this up because I thought I did everything with everybody. Chunky. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, now so we are done. Hi Breasty, hi. Oh my gosh, somebody else has used the word breasty. Hi Pecunia. That's the second person that has used the word breasty today that I know of. The other one being me, by the way. Alright, I need to go to any stage and get and talk to Snide, turn in all my blueprints. So we go here, which is first stage, obviously. I love the word breasty, it's so funny. Didn't you say breasty too? No, you commented on the fact that I said breasty, right? Right? That's a little different. Where's Snide at in this stage? Oh, yeah, he's up, I think. I'ma cry. No crying in this stream. The only crying is from your pants, I guess. Question mark. Started using it relatively recently. I've always known it existed. I just never really used it. I just think it's funny. A funny word. Should be up here, right? Or is this Candy? No, this is Cranky. Oh, this is Snide. There we go. Alright, time to turn in everything. That's the way. That's 6 banana. Look at the banana dump. Oh, banana. Oh, banana. Oh, banana. Ugh. Oh, banana. So one more, I think? Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna try not to sniffle too much. Just because, like, legitimately, I'm very slightly off. Oh yeah, I forgot that that's how that looks. Wait, that wasn't done in yellow. Who's supposed to be saying banana? It's just like the voice of God, basically, but I don't know who it's supposed to be actually. Seven meets heaven for you. Am I missing the blueprint with DK? That shouldn't be, right? Because he got 6, they got 7. Funny word, yes. Merch! Get your merch now! It will always be alive for you guys if you guys want to buy it. I did say the number. Hi, it's hilarious. I said the number, but at the same time, it was literally there. I'm missing one with DK. Oh no. Wait, am I missing Creepy Castle? Is that what's going on? Hang on. The DK Isles one? Oh shit. Is it? I'm assuming it's at the entrance to Hideout Helm. Let's take a quick Google. Very quick Google. It is, okay. We're good. Just a very cursory glance because I did not want to miss something by accident. It is in fact just in the Hideout Helm area, which I have not yet gone to. So there's 2 bananas I'm missing in that area, and both are before this actual stage. But how are you doing, Solaris? How's your Thursday? 6 for 6. Like, this one seems off, but I remember turning in one of Lanky's by accident, so I was like, shit, the massive dump is not gonna work. Yeah, giggity. Oh, banana. Do you guys know? I think the original bananas in DK Donkey Kong Country, the first one, I'm pretty sure just the first one had like the Dole logo on it. I forget if they were sponsored or not, but they were actually there. Alright, so blue should be done, right? Yeah, so I just turned in 1. Oh yeah, I turned 1 with him and 2 with them by accident. Got tomorrow off. You better enjoy your day off. Oh, it turned in 3 with her. That's what it is. Depending on how long the rest of the game goes, it might just be the end of the stream there. Gotta go work on early Saturday. That sucks. I'm sorry. Oh, banana. So it should be 8 with Chunky. No, 7 with Chunky. Wait. 8 with Chunky. Because I have all his blueprints. I fucked up. Not the point out of my 4 or 5. So that's good then. That's not so bad. Yeah, should be 8 with Chunky. We should be at 108 or 198. Banana, that's 2. And Toey. Sorry, Tootsie Pop commercial. Oh, banana. That's 5. That streak though, yeah. What the? Oh, you have 45 stream streak. I think that's the biggest I've seen. Like actually. Holy shit. Yep, 1 and 8. There's 1 Chunky Banana and 1 DK blueprint missing, which I know where they are. That's literally what she said. Like literally what she said. Save the game. Oh wait, I think I need to be... I don't want to be tiny to get to the top of Hideout Helm. And by she, I mean you. And by it, I mean my penis. Sorry. Four? Woman, please. Nah, you gotta say bitch, please. Sorry. If you're wondering why, that's... Is that a Dave Chappelle reference, I think? It's like that? Okay, I see. No, it's just a reference. You're not gonna call me a bitch, it's just literally a reference. What's going on? Hi Rage, how was that sound by the way? Was it okay? Was it quiet? Because it sounded quiet on my end. But again, what I hear and what you guys hear are two vastly different volumes. Sounded just right? Okay, that's good. That's good. That's all I care about. Wrong one. This way. How's it going, Rage? How's your Thursday? Can you guys believe you only need 50% of all bananas to beat the game? Welcome to bonus stage. Welcome to bonus stage. Anyway, do you guys see the little thing in the corner? You guys better read it. Little says new outfit teaser. You guys should read what it says up there. Reload! Shit. Just relaxing, that's good. But yeah, you guys can earn a teaser. So that's Chunky's final banana. You see how it starts? Ooh, that's interesting. That's in 199. You might need to refresh your page then, because I did start that a little late. How the fuck do I reach that? Oh, with the coconut gun, which can fire in spurts. Where is it supposed to be? It's supposed to be up in the top, where right next to where like the leaderboard or whatever should be. Alright, let's go turn this in before I leave. Go into the stage. Oh yeah, that's right. I could be on channel points too. You're right. It should be there. I'm on mobile channel points then. Oh, there we go. I was gonna say, yeah, it's probably the channel points section as well. Let's go turn in this last one, which is the fastest stage. It still is Jungle Japes for me because I know where it is. But yeah, you guys have 10 days to get that done. I chose 10 days because it's actually really easy. It takes only a handful of people to do that, if for every day that I stream. Also, you guys see how Donkey Kong's super caked up? And he's like the only Kong that's like super caked up, by the way. Give me my health back. Oh, he took it away. Doink. He does his donkey squats. I mean, he does. Just look at him right here. Kind of what he does, right? You only stream like 4 times in the next 10 days. You wanna know what the great thing about that is? It takes 5 people 5 days to get that done. So as long as you're here every day, you can actually be one of the 5 needed to get that done. If I couldn't max it out right now, I know there's a lot of people that have a lot of channel points that could very well max it out right now, and I think that's why it's called the community challenge, and why they don't let you do that is because they don't want people that have, you know, been watching forever to do everything themselves. However, also because I am feeling a little sick, if I end up canceling any day in the next 2 weeks, I will actually add an extra day to the timer. So don't worry about that. You will get at least 5 stream days to get this done, including today. Number 200, we're done. Now you're wondering how to get 101%. It would be a shame if stream crashed and restarted. It'd be a shame if I randomly went live just to let people put 2,000 coins. It'd also be a real shame if somehow Twitch actually allowed me to put in points, but it doesn't. But yeah, like essentially I'm making this not hard, but also not easy. What I mean by that is, it is easy, but it also requires at least 5 people to be here every day that I stream for the next, you know, 2 weeks of streams that I do, you know, this, you know, tomorrow and next week. So like it's easy if people actually, you know, show up. But if nobody does, oops, maybe you won't get it. I could have chosen a number like 20k and it gets done tomorrow, but I was like, nah, you know what? Let's make them work for it. Let's ruin the channel point economy. Oh shit, wait. Did I fuck up by not actually checking the blueprints? The no new outfit? Yep, I'll just delete it. I'll just get rid of it. Look at him snoring. Intruder alert! Intruder alert! Intruder alert! It's the Kongs! Wake up, you fools! Activate the machine! But it's not fully tested. It might explode and destroy us all. Destroy us all! Don't tell me what I can't do! I'm the king. Please, master, just give us a few more hours. No, the time has come. Goodbye, DK Isles. Here's the deal. You blueprints you have found me. Allow me to block the blast-o-matic fire sequence for 50 minutes. Locate and deactivate the machine in the main cavern. Hurry, or you won't have an island to go back to. 50 minutes. Okay. Remember, chat, no help. Oh. Okay. Thank you, Leona, for the 10 gifted. Oh my god. I never heard that music before, because nobody ever does gifts in groups of more than one. Who got it? Luigi got it. Dark Beast Boy got it. Marissa. Ooh, Marissa got it. Quito Suarez. Little Howler Cat Lover. Ruby. Catalina Corral. Exploding Goats. Lopalop. Junior Dev. Nice. Did something happen? No. You know damn well what happened. Y'all are gonna see names going across my tits for the next like 3 minutes, by the way. But thank you so much for the 10 gifted. What the fuck? We are now halfway, by the way, to a new emote slot. DK, Donkey Kong. Thank you so much, Leona. It means a lot. Best billboard. What was I gonna say? Yeah, we're halfway to a new emote slot. Thank you. If we somehow reach it, I don't know, I'll let chat decide what the next emote gets to be. I don't know what to say besides thank you. Like, holy shit, that's like so generous. Use your tax return wisely, guys. Anyway, we just gotta go. This is a lanky area. This is lanky. This is lanky because I see the blue. I just realized. You guys might be wondering, how did I know that this is lanky? First of all, only he can climb these ledges. Second of all, it's blue, which is lanky. What? Coconut or pineapple? So chunky? You got my ties back in February? I got mine, yeah, a little bit ago too, like before April. Is this a shortcut or what the hell? But again, thank you, and everybody who got emotes, enjoy. Hang on, I gotta sneeze, but I gotta pause. Ah! fucking dying. Came out of nowhere. The tickle fairy on my nose got me. Sorry. I try not to sneeze directly into my microphone. Thank you though. But Leona, I don't know what to say besides thank you. I don't know how to repay you for all the subs you've gifted this past couple days. Also, what's up here? And why do I care? Those days have the timer stuck. It does. I just realized this is 90 seconds we're doing, by the way. Good thing we have 50 fucking minutes. Curse splat. Oh my god, I almost fell off. Hang on, what hype chest do we have? Leona, what the fuck's going on? What are you doing? What are you doing? This emote that I got is so very, like, appropriate. I'm fucking spiraling. Alright, who got them this time? Rin. Oh, Rin got one. Rin got one. GB 1220. Joseph Daranikon. Zenaton. Kulan Torkin. Ornix got one. Umbri the Kitsune. Salty C9. Ooh, C9 apparently. Dragon Impact at Mora. You enjoy. I am getting so loved on. You guys have no fucking idea. Like, what the fuck? So now we're technically 10 away from a new emote. But I get loved on. That is quite literally what Nora's doing, or what Leona's doing. Just fucking forcing me into submission and shoving gift subs down my throat. Yeah, we are 10 subs, like new subs, not just like resubs, away from a new emote and a new animated emote, by the way. So you guys will get two. Get loved on, Rent Thumper. Exactly. Oh my god. 3 of the lads spawning. We're done though. They're not gonna reach me in time. Bye-bye. Thank you so much, Leona. I don't know what to say. Enjoy no ads, people, for a little bit. Where the hell am I going? Donkey Kong? That's not what I wanted. I wanted to swap. Can I get in this because it's yellow? No. I see this here though. So we pill this next. Oh, okay. So now I want the Diddy Barrel. Konky Dong. Hi, Thunderbird. I missed. One more. Should be just this one left. Perfect. So that opens up door 1. Oh, these are all... Okay, so these require Chunky to break them down, by the way, and I just noticed the gates. Chunky, please come out. Oh, do they have their... Okay, they're all gonna have their instruments in front of it, it looks like. This is tiny. Wait, what? Why doesn't that one have instrument in front of it? I'm confused. I'm so confused. That's blue for Link. Where the fuck's the green one? Did I miss a door down here, maybe? I might have. This is the green one. So is it in order? Okay, so if it's in order, Donkey Kong was first. Which I think it is in order, because I remember Donkey Kong was the yellow one. Plus it's still the one that I've seen with his instrument in front of it. Yeah. Alright, so what do I gotta do? What are these K.Rool barrels? These like battles? What the fuck? Hey, you know, jump in the blast barrel, hit their targets. Oh, that's easy. One. Two. The last one's literally right at the start, so it should be pretty easy. I missed. Shit, I have to hit it now. Fuck. I'm not gonna hit it now, I don't think. Not in time. Ah, motherfucker. Oh my god. Oh my god, restart. Saves me time too. Okay, now I'm not gonna try to get that first one. There, easy. Easy fucking peasy. Oh my god. There's one. Anything in there? Nope. God, no wonder you want the blueprints in this stage. What does this do? Rambi. Go bash him currently. Watch out for fire pylons. Bop. 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 I have to run into them, by the way. I don't even have to like actually hit them. Or like attack at them, I mean. One more. Oh my god, I fucking shoulder tapped it. Who gave you a sub? Leona. Leona went fucking crazy. Plus, if you check your Twitch messages, it actually tells you exactly who gave you a sub. Well done. So this should open the banana coin? Sure does. Next is Chunky. But yes, if anybody got a sub, because there's a lot of you that did, be sure to thank Leona, because there's a 90% chance it came from her. I think the green one was up here, wasn't it? Sure was. Can't see. God, why is it so fucking long? It's already been 10 minutes, by the way. What's this? Like this one, just find the hidden kremlins. Okay. Big boy. Fucking easy. I wonder if it spawns in the same way or the same spot every time. It's in the podium, use a sniper. Okay. I'm glad they're smart enough to give you infinite ammo there, honestly. Ah. Next is Tiny Kong. Please stop the fanfare, hurry up. You bitch. It was just like a really easy order to go around. Get fucked. Woohoo! What's this one? Is it without touching the ground? Is my guess. Yep. It is pretty cool that most of these are using like their unique mechanics. What's this? Use the motion leap to the stars. Okay. That was easy. I have to make sure I was aiming correctly, otherwise I probably wouldn't have hit it. God, I really hate these games where the timer just counts down while you're not able to move. That's Lanky Kong next. Hoopla! Hoopla! Sounds like a lot of... Damn it. That sounds like a lot of... Somebody died. Oh, he fucking exploded. He flew. Hit the switch in the maze. Okay. Hit the fucking bear. Oh my god. I'm upset. I'm upset that he just fucking missed it. Twice. Twice. 3 times. Okay, we go. Shit. That was so fucking close. Okay, so the switch is literally right next to the exit, by the way, if it's the same scene. Ow! Friggin'. Next. Hola! Blast the zingers, okay. Got him. I love just infinite ammo makes all these so easy. Just spam the button. Next is Diddy Kong, wherever his is actually. It's just like randomly up in the sky because I know Diddy can fly, so they're expecting you to just fly around looking for it. Diddy Kong. This way. Also, Diddy Kong's guitar sounds me a lot, reminds me a lot of Sonic Underground. If you don't know what Sonic Underground is, don't worry. What's this? Bash the Kremlin, deliver the switch, then press it. That's the one. That's pretty funny. Oh, it's like you're kind of playing Among Us with them. Like Sonic Hunter for what it was? Yeah, I like the fact that it gave us a non-canon like Sonic characters. Stick to the air, shoot 4 switches. I thought it was cool that Sonic like it was trying to go like the Mobian path, but they kind of abandoned that really early on in Sonic's life, besides the comics obviously. Not to be a lot of time for me. Yeah, it was for me too. That's how I knew about it. Last one is just the boss fight, right? Alright, so where are the fairies at? They should be near the final boss. It's this door, I believe? No, not that door. Is it that door? Maybe it is, actually. Yeah, it is that door, actually. Alright. Wait, you actually have to get these to beat the game? I didn't know that. I was 35-second fast, by the way. How was he already ready to shoot? Yo, the crococopter or crocojet or something. Here we go. Where are they? Are they just, yeah, they're just like here, right? Yeah. What? That was literally on one of them. I'm confused. Why is this not hitting them? Why is it? It's like between them? There we go. Okay, that should be both. That should be all 20. Do they give you the banana right away? Or do I have to go back to the place? Well done. Rescue all the fairies. Come back and see me. Yeah, so I have to go back. I'm assuming the battles by taking the platform, so let's get the fuck out of here. Go, 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 the 201st banana for 201%. Where's the banana fairies at? This way? I should have been Chunky, because I love Chunky's falling scream. He just goes, ah! Like, he actually sounds like he's fucking dying. Shit, I need to be tiny. That's what it is. Stop missing, please. Jesus. Hi, Miss Fairy. Tiny, oh Tiny, you did it. You rescued all the banana fairies and have restored peace to Banana Fairy Island. Thank you. I can now reveal our secret. They had a banana the whole time. It's a secret rare banana. Tiny, thanks once again. Banana Fairy Kingdom is eternally grateful to you and your friends. It's a secret banana. Big banana. Now, save the game. Let's go check our percentages. Are we at 100 or are we at 101? Okay, get away. I just want to see. I just want to see what if it counts it as 101 or if I'm missing something by accident. Show me. 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 99. Oh. I missed the battle. Uh oh. Anyway, it's fine. Let's get with the game anyway. Split. Wee. I don't know another way to get up here. I guess it'd be Diddy Kong flying. Hang on. Give me a second. I got a DM. Hang on, I'm curious. I'm missing a battle arena. Is there actually one? One that I'm missing? I might have missed one. I think I actually missed an arena. Oh shit. I think I missed one. Oh god. Okay, let's go look around. We're not done, folks. I know which one it is. I just looked up at the list. I know exactly which one it is. Because this is just not something that I've noticed at all. What stage am I going to? I think I need the barrel. Not the big one, the normal barrel. Is there one here? Is this the tree? This is the tree. Not the one me father was. Sorry, Family Guy reference. Can't help it. Alright, so... if I'm correct, I think it's this barrel that takes me to the area that I want to be in. Is this it? This is not it. Oh, it is it. Yeah, I gotta shoot that thing. How would I have known? I don't fucking know. What the fuck am I missing? How the fuck is this missing? Okay, idea. Idea. Not question, but idea. If it's red, does that mean it's Diddy? It fucking is, goddammit. Red and yellow means Donkey Kong. I think it's not going in a proper pattern. Blue is lanky. That was an easy shot. Green is chunky. And now last one, purple. There's the tiny one. How would I have known to shoot this fucking thing? I don't fucking know. Remember, gamers don't look up, so it's easy for me to miss it, but as for why you would look at that and think to shoot it, I don't fucking know. Oh, it's just fucking there. I guess only while you're invisible is my guess. Cool. Forest Fracas. That's a cool name, title. Not many people use the word fracas. I'm dying. My throat's so like dry right now, so that's why I'm trying not to talk too much. If you guys are noticing, maybe like somewhat quieter than usual. Because I am trying to keep my throat very safe and not irritated. Well played. There's the last one. Now are we at 100%? Like actually 100%. Because this should be the last thing that I was missing for time for like the counters. Am I not at 100 because it's just not the haven't beat the boss yet? Let's find out. Oh, we got it. 101, baby. All right, time to beat the game. Welcome back from the ads. I just double checked my percentage counter after that final arena. We are at 101%. Why am I saying that? Everybody's fucking subbed now. Literally, I guarantee everybody who's in chat right now is subbed. DK. Hi, Marissa. Okay, go. Don't forget, there's Chunky. He's dead. All right, is the boss just this? It's not. Is it this? Oh, do I have to? Oh, I have to go to what's his face, don't I? I got a bonus key. Yeah, so let's go out to let's go out to Clumsy. Why is she saying I forgot? Who's saying I forgot? Did I say I forgot? Tiny? Is that what she's saying? Oh, that is the final lock that I need. Oh shit. He's so happy. That thing looks tiny, by the way, like actually small. That's a cool plane, though. Helicopter? Helicopter. Not a helicopter or a plane. Hovercraft, I guess? Clumsy, look how big he is. He's so big, he's so happy. Hi. This is actually so funny. What the fuck? Not the boulder. No, clumsy. That was Chunky's fault, by the way. Remember, Chunky can lift the boulder with relative ease. That was literally Chunky's fault. He left the boulder there. Where'd I go? Where do I go? I saw the thing fell, I just don't see where. Oh, just there, I see it. Ow. In here, I guess? Alright, final battle time, maybe? Question mark? Yo, it's a Mike. What's up, Mr. Mike? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event of the game. We bring you 12 3-minute rounds of boxing for the undisputed heavyweight championship of DK. Oh, sorry, my throat's not working too well, so I gotta breathe. Brought to you this evening by Rare and Nintendo in association with K.Rool Enterprises. Introducing the Kong family versus King Crusher K.Rool. His first name is Crusher, by the way. That's pretty cool. Oh, the mic is up his ass now. And he's dead. Thank you, he's saying. Judges at ringside are non-existent, and your timekeepers tonight will act in a fair and unbiased manner. Sounds like a lie. Me when I lie. There goes the Crusher part, basically, right? That does not look unbiased at all. Weighing in at a solid 800 pounds, I give you the primate Donkey Kong. In the blue corner, King K.Rool. I love this. just have to wait. How did that hit me? I was in the air. Get fucked. What? Huh? DK, please grab. Wait, what? You telling me to wait because I have to wait? Fine, I'll wait, I guess. How did that? What? Well, it didn't work, but okay. Okay, now it did work. Okay, that's fine. I have 2 health in a dream. We're fine. Yeah, he was guarding, but apparently he went back to guarding at the same time, which is weird. Oh, that was a fake out. Yeah, it's a fake out. I jumped when I didn't want to, and I got off the fucking thing. We'll be fine. I took a free watermelon of damage because I didn't realize I just had to, I had to wait for the things to spawn rather than try to fight them. My fault there. Like the guarding thing, that's fine. I'll take the L on that, but I just ran into him for free at the beginning, so like I just was already off to a bad start. Also, is it really 12 rounds? Because if so, that's kind of fucking crazy. Did I just get lucky the first time that he was guarding? Like, did I perfectly time it to where he wasn't actually guarding, or he wasn't actually attacking me, I mean? Bitch. DK, please. Thank you. Perfect shot there. Shit. I saw I was at 7. That's why I was like, I'll just fire at 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Saved by the bell. I fucking love how it's just like an actual fucking boxing match. And now, making his way into the ring, it's the champ of chimps, Diddy Kong. Mr. He gets his own racing game. Alright, ow, what the fuck? I wasn't even close to him. Oh, boy. Wait, I know what I'm doing here. I know what I'm doing here. I know what I'm doing here. Just know what I'm doing here. That is what I'm doing here. I just was just at the wrong spot. Got him. Oh my god, that was a lucky shot there. Nice shot. Even nicer shot for me, bitch. This would just kill anybody that wasn't a cartoon character, by the way. Perfect shot. 1, 2, 3. They're sleeping. They're sleeping. Star Fox was in Mario? Basically, yeah. Saved by the Bell. Who's next? Lanky. He boasts the longest reach currently in the world today. Introducing. That's actually a real statement. He is the world's largest, longest reach. Lanky Kong. What do I get to do for him? I see what I gotta do. Was it a cam or was he in for a while? He's always kind of been around. Can I leave the stage? Oh. I mean in the new movie? Oh, no. He was in it for he was in it for a while. It was not a cameo. Like he was a part of the story. That is a spoiler, but it was also teased by them. But it worked. Jesus Christ. But like, yeah, like he was in there, and he was like actually like really in there. Like sort of a spoiler, but yeah, he was in there, and he was a pretty good plot device. You guys in the set of his own movie? Maybe. It's also possible to set up a new design that they'd make him for them. They'd make for the movie, for a new video game or something. Because he did have a relatively different design. Like if you were to see the trailer, you'd see he does actually have like a pretty different design. Not the trailer, but like even the teaser image of him. Oh, if they give Crystal nice honkers, listen. If there's one thing they'll probably never do again is make a character as sexy as Crystal. I fucking hate this because I cannot tell how he's running. Besides, who's to say if Crystal's even going to be in the new game? Maybe it becomes like an actual prequel where like it's the creation of Star Fox, maybe like the new Star Fox, I mean. I love these animations, it's so nice. Last one, or no, fourth one, not last one. Was Rouge in the Sonic movies? Not yet. It looks like in the Sonic movies there's introducing for the most part one new character at a time, excluding Tails and Knuckles, because them both being together kind of makes sense. But yeah, the third movie was specifically just Shadow. Hailing all the way from DK Isles, it's the girl with the whirl. That's a fucked up way to call her. Tiny Kong. I don't think people are ready for that though. Next one is Amy and Metal. Yeah, the next one's gonna have Amy and Metal Sonic in it. They might have Rouge in there. Is it 3 people? I know it's Amy and Metal. That's 2. Who's the third one that's gonna be in there? Brother, it takes my fucking gun away. She's tiny. She is tiny. Hi Pyre. Waiting for the uptick in Rouge fan art. Listen. Some reason I thought Silver was in it. Just because it has time travel makes people think probably Silver might be in it, but I don't see a reason for it to be Silver. I think it looks like it's gonna be more of a Sonic CD reference with that time travel, which is why it's going to be Amy and Metal. Toes, yes, this is a very much a toe-centric stage. You bitch. I'm gonna fucking die to the toes, by the way. Finished Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC? I did. I never beat the bosses because the bonus bosses suck ass. Live by the toes, die by the toes. Yep. How else is Tiny gonna fight? You fucking destroy his toes. Brother, he ran into me. He ran into me again. I'm gonna die against this section, aren't I? I can tell. Not like this section, just like the tiny section. Shit. Fucking Christ, bro. It pisses me off because I can't attack if they hit me. Fucking takes away my goddamn gun. Sucks ass. Why is it melon and not banana? What do you mean? Oh, the health? I don't know. That I don't actually know why it's a melon and not a banana for health. That tiny section sucks ass because you couldn't tell, but I can only move left and right. But it must be telling attention credit after giving on for it's been years. I mean, I like the story. Like, I don't think I'm gonna cry as much as Kingdom Hearts like some people do. I do like the story. It is very sad. I do cry at it, like legitimately. Like at the end when the Don't Think Twice plays, and then Sora just disappears. Like that gets me sad. But Minish, oh yeah, Minish Cap, yeah. There's a boss like that in Minish Cap. I haven't played Minish Cap on stream. I might save that for like a Zelda marathon that I'm thinking about doing though. Who do I like more, Rouge or Crystal? I would probably say Rouge. I grew up more with Rouge than Crystal. Like, I played both games as a kid, but I played realistically like 1,000 hours of Sonic as a kid, whereas Star Fox Adventures does not have very much replayability. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and fire. Oh, the DLC bosses? Yeah, I can see that. Those bosses are a pain in the ass, not in the good way. I'm okay with bosses being hard, especially because they're just optional. I myself, I don't care enough to learn or grind my way to get like the perfect setup. I think the only one I beat in Kingdom Hearts 2 specifically was actually Luxord? Is that his name? So is it Luxord? I think it is Luxord. The one with the earth attacks, like the sword and stuff. Where like his desperation move is him literally charging at you and fucking flashbanging you. That one, I beat him just because I understood his mechanic from fighting him the first time. I think it's Luxord is his name. Either way, it's the guy with the big ass sword that shoots like shockwaves and shit, like earth shockwaves. He's like an earthbender. Rin and Rouge's outfit. Listen, that's always an option. Like any of the video game baddies that you guys want to get me drawn in or see me drawn in, just, you know. Sorry, thought I heard a knock on my door. Never mind. Either earn it through various events that I do, or I don't know, just give me the money for it to get an artist on it. Shit. That's some bullshit, like actually. Like, I'd love to get drawn in Rouge's outfit. I would love to get drawn in like Shantae's outfit, or a Shantae. Luxord is Cardman. Yeah, it's not him then. Who am I thinking of? It's not Luxord. Lexaeus, that's what it is. I knew it was with an L. Ugh. Lexaeus. Luxord the Cauldron. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, Lexaeus. He has a giant sword. He's an earthbender. And his whole gimmick is like the power level thing, where he deals more damage as he like gets charged up. Hexmaniac Rin. Also peak. Listen, I'm not even lying to you guys. All of these ideas are peak, but all that costs money. So like, I'm not a good enough artist to draw myself in these outfits without using heavy inspiration that people would consider tracing, just in the sense that I would just use like a base. But yeah, no, like all these are ideas, and they're great ideas. Ideas I'd love to get done. But things cost money. No shame base. Yeah, no. I'm not gonna say there's that I'm shaming people for using bases. Like I know people that use them, like artists that use them for their own emotes. Like they use bases, but obviously draw their own emotes. It went away already. Fuck, he's gonna hit me. I didn't see that it went away. My fault. Also, is it just me or is Lanky extra stretchy in this fight? That's not gonna work at all. It might. Let's find out. Let's see if this works. It does work. All right. Attempt number 2. Oh, fuck. But yeah, we got what? Rouge de Bat outfit, we got Crystal outfit, we got Hex Maniac. Like, I already got myself drawn as Cynthia. That was another big dream. Like, another one that people don't think of that I do. Lulu from Final Fantasy X. Shit. What the fuck? It didn't show the ammo, by the way. Wait, wait, I'm always aiming. Jesus Christ, I think I fucked up. Yeah, I'm always aiming. That's my fault. I'm silly. This fight's a lot easier than it makes out to be. Or rather, this section is not the fight, but just this section. Alright, next one. Oh yeah, one more little toesy. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Give me that last toe, buddy. Nice double tap. Got him. Oh god, please don't kill. Get him. Thank god. thought I was done. It was 4 hits, not 3. I'm so dumb. Fuck. Ah. Oh my god, it's so hard. It's honestly hard to react. That's the big thing. Alright. This will be the attempt. This boss is actually hard. It's just longevity that pisses me off. But I'm not safe stating. Fuck that. Safe stating a boss like that is for bitches. I will do it the way God intended. Got him. Six, 7. Good thing is I'm learning more about the patterns for other K.Rool phases. Wait, are these animations different? Because that's not the same one, right? The good thing is I get full health every time. Like every Kong. You motherfucker. Oh my god. Did I just take a second hit of damage from fall damage there? I swear to god, if I lose to the DD phase now, I'm gonna be so upset. Morgan from Darkstalkers, listen, that's a peak one that not many people talk about. Like, a lot of people think of like succubuses in like a very generic sense, but like not many people talk about Morrigan. Albeit, I will be honest, I do not know much about her. Besides the fact that I believe I did play her in one of those collab fighting games. I forget which one had her in it, but I played her. And I liked how her uppercut was very reminiscent of like what eventually became Simon and Richter's up B. Okay. These phases are not too bad anymore. They're like, these are not long. It's the tiny one that's long. Like that one's actually long. Marvel's Capcom? It very well might be. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it very well might be. All I remember was her animation where she like, I'm not even kidding, this is like the best description I could give it. Her hands, she does like the Scarlet Witch hands. That should count, right? Please tell me this hits. Turn to the right, not to your left. Yes! Okay. Okay. Third time's the charm, right? That's what they say. Also, a big thing is I need to not get hit by him out here, because his swinging ass arms hit me all the damn time. Okay, one hit's okay. We're okay. Okay, okay. Third phase. Shit. Oh, but oh my god. Okay, we got 2 hits. We're okay. I think I've got this because I don't think I'll take 2.5, 2.25 watermelon hits. Come on. And I still have one more phase, by the way. I still have the chunky phase. One. I'm assuming it's gonna be 4 hits. Two. A Toei. That should be it. Okay. one more phase. Uh-oh. There's no more bell for them. Tipping the scales at a mighty 2,000 pounds. He's the hard-hitting Chunky Kong. But he's dead. How is he 2,000 pounds when DK's 800? The fuck? He's angry. Brother, this is boxing, not wrestling. Shit, he hit me first. Do I block? Is that what's going on? Is that what I'm getting wrong? Do I have to block him? Motherfucker, fuck you. Oh, it's probably this. Yeah. Yep, it's the charge punch. Get fucked. Ow. Oh, there's only certain ones. Makes sense. Bring it on. He was a lot faster that time. Still hit me. Fuck you. Next. Holy shit, he was a lot faster than I thought. Okay, now I know I gotta press it like almost instantly. This is really alarming actually, because I'm at not a lot of health left. Bro, he's targeting me. One more? Oh, they've all been 4 hits, haven't they? Yeah, every single one has been 4 hits. I gotta be very careful. Oh, of course, he just fucking runs into me. Alright. Got him. He tried to fake me out with the fucking spin attack. It's the end, right? We beat the game, right? Right? Time? GG? G fucking G, right? Right? We're done? Maybe not. Who? Hey girl. That's so sweet that her nickname Candy. Hey girl. Of course the girlfriend's the one that saves the day. Auga. Look at them bazongas on her. He's like, mama. showing some ankle. Damn. Oh, hell yeah. Bring out the big guns, baby. Later, bitch. Alright, now the story of Donkey Kong Bonanza has officially been set. Alright, do they have a 101 bonus like the other rare games have had a 100% bonus? I like how they squish the actual screen, not just like get rid of it. Forgot the banana fairies, they are weird. Hey girl, bye girl. Crank her up, the legend, the goat. Hey girl, don't keep your legs like that, girl. That's not very feminine of you. GG, hi mistress, or dragoon mistress, excuse me. Here you see the bloopers. They're bloopers. Is it so it's gonna be like a Banjo-Kazooie situation where there's a little bit of a blooper reel at the end? Oh. After the credits, fair enough, makes sense. How are you doing though? Welcome in. Mr. Sutherland. And Chris Siever too. I know that name. Funky, funky. It's the Stampers. It's kind of funny how they made him the militia guy. Sorry, the arms guy, not militia, that's different. Also, like K.Rool to play. Oh, that's cool. Better go to detail. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I understand. Hopefully you get better. Things get better soon. I don't think your foot should make the little boing sound. Sleeping like a baby. Mr. Miyamoto, Mr. Yamauchi, Mr. Arakawa. I know those three. Did not know the third one. Fukuda, I think I know. Okay. Christian was best favorite characters about. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Gets a gun that shoots exploding orange. That's crazy, actually. Like, just thinking about it, I imagine not all of them have exploding ammunition, so having somebody that does is kind of crazy. Yeah, that's what I figured. Fat ass. He's farting. That's what the yellow's for. He's also farting, but he's had some spicy food beforehand. Yeah, breakdance, baby. DK. I'm assuming this be it. Oh yeah, the same music they play in Banjo-Kazooie, by the way. Hey girl. Thank you, Grand Hoop. Yeah, Kirkup's amazing. Yeah, of course, he's also the voice of Donkey Kong for people who don't know. Anytime you hear the yeah or the okay, that's him. That's Grand Kirko. Is he also the one that says "old banana"? Sounds. It does sound like him, just with a little more of like a added on effects. Charles Martin did watch. Nope. If you watched, this is gonna be a throwback. If you watched the Game Grumps interview episode they did with Grant Kirkhope, he explains he did the voice for DK. Like they're playing a lot of rare games, right? Just like to kind of have him walk around and explain things. And then when they bust out the coconut gun, he goes, "Yeah." They ask, "Is that you?" He's like, "Of course it is." He's like, "I am DK," is what he says in that specific like interview Game Grumps episode that he did. He's also the voice of Mamo Jumbo. This is a really long setup for blooper reel. Charles Marnie did we take it for a bit? Yeah. I'm just saying that this specific game, it's Grant Kirkhope, and he's either, unless he was lying, he clarified that it's him in that specific episode. Next. Oh. Squeaky, squishy, squishy. What the fuck is going on? Tweet. Next. Hey girl. Next. Who the fuck is this guy? DK. DK. Next. Hey, it's a golden naughty. Those don't exist in the game. He's of course scared of a little naughty. Next. 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 Oh. Mermaid? Hey girl. Wait. When was there there's no mermaid in this game, right? Oh no, there is. Yeah, no. A tiny banana. It's the three ladies in the game. Yeah. As soon as I said, I'm like, no, you're right. There's a whole section where you're looking for pearls, I believe, and Tiny has to be the one to give them to her. I remember. They're playing patty cake. Next. Naughties! Look at the naughties! Oh, that's a big one. Is this credits? Yeah, this is the 101% bonus. Is he gonna break it? But GG, thank you. I'm proud of you. Thank you very much. I'm proud of myself. This game wasn't that bad as people think it is. Alpha, kind of. Ooh. Excuse me. No. Is that it? I think that's it. I think we're done. Cool. We're all done. Let's go check our little thing, and then we are not going to be done for today. I will be doing a little bit more. Maybe we'll do a little bit of Pokopia to finish out the night. Just like a good 30-45 minutes. Galaxy Crusher Sprite. Can I play multiplayer solo? 101%, 24 hours. You know what's funny? When I googled how long it takes to get 101%, people were like, about 60 hours unless you're really good. And I'm like, not that long at all. Go to, oh, you go to the mystery. Oops, that's not what I wanted. There we go. Let's see. Oh my god. He just buff as all hell. The blue one, like the base color, he's buff. Me, obviously, I like purple, but motherfucker's buff. Cool. Anyway, that was fun. Let me turn this off. Gets jacked in 7 animations, I believe it. Shut this off, and then let me grab... Hug, thanks for the hug. Let me change my stream title, bring in some Pokopia. We will play just a tiny bit of Pokopia today. Grab my remote. I will not be playing much. I have no plans to be super what's the word, like trying to strain myself with how I feel. As like slightly sick. Wait, what's my date set at? $4:13. We're good. Sorry, I'm time traveling a little bit because I forgot to play this week, so I need to just do my dailies per day to get stamps and stuff. So while I have you here, I do want to say we are done with DK64. The next game I plan to play just for a day, maybe even not even a day, maybe like an hour, because it's not a long game. It's not even like a good quote-unquote game. It's called 2 Extreme. It is a game that the first one of it was actually a collaboration with ESPN. This specific one wasn't, but one of them was. Yeah, it's just a game about extreme sports, so like inline skating, skateboarding, things like that. And I'm just gonna play that. Probably not for long, because again, it's not really that much of a long game. As for the next long game that I'm gonna play, I don't know. I really don't know. I'll have to think about it. You guys can bring up some suggestions yourself. Gather copper ore, gather honey, hype it up. That's really easy. Told Tommy Matt. Oh, that's cool. So I'm trying to get my Skylands up to level 9 because I need to get the drum from level 9 environmental level. So I'm just running around making people's houses nicer. Snivy, Ninetales Vulpix Persian. Myself. Well then. I need to put some things away, like legitimately need to put some things away. Give me a second. Oh, looks like a nice place. Who's here? Oh god, it's Mr. Mime. I need to put him in jail somewhere. Hi. Wait, can you see this wall, yo? You're the real deal, huh? That proves your heart's like pure, you know? Hope we can be friends. That is not what I want to be told by Mr. Mime. Your heart is pure. Always practicing its pantomime act. It makes enemies believe something exists that really doesn't. Oh, also, besides, you know, I guess I have to make him his home nicer, so let me figure out what he likes to eat and give him something bitter. I saw an interaction just today, actually, of two Pokemon being catty as fucking hell, and I'll show you guys. And also voice acting, so you guys can just hear the cattiness of it. I took a video of this, so you guys don't have to worry about it. Alright. Leave this as is. Go to my album. It is here. Yeah, so it's an interaction between, surprisingly, Flygon and Ninetales, and it's really funny. Like, they're catty as hell to each other. Why, if it isn't Flygon, how nice to see you. Oh, hello there, Ninetales. I must say, the sound your wings make when they flap is quite lovely, like listening to a beautiful serenade. Though it can be a bit noisy. Why, thank you. How very kind. And, again, it's not over yet. Those tails of yours are quite marvelous as well. They have a sort of elegant mystique that's utterly captivating. Despite looking unwieldy and uncomfortable. Thank you. It takes a great deal of effort to maintain their beauty. I find that daily grooming is an absolute must. How nice it must be to exist without regards for one's appearance, especially covered in desert sand. Almost done. That must be quite burdensome, despite how they look. My wings are sturdy and allow me to fly about freely. Which I doubt would be possible if I had to drag a bulky, hairy tail around. You know, I feel like we have a lot in common, says Ninetales. I think you may be right. This feels like the start of a wonderful friendship. Just fucking catty as hell. I had to record that. Like it was so good. I need to make myself some furniture actually. Actually, what does Tinkaton want? You want brighter? Oh, that's fine. I can make you some lamps and stuff. I want some like street lamp style. Like these, just regular. Oh, this will work. 2 of them. Let's go just for 3, probably. We'll keep the aesthetic that this area has with the double starlets. Why does this not reach? Oops, I turned off the power by accident. There you go. Where are my lamps at? Or lights? Where are they? They're right here. I had plenty of them. I didn't have to buy anymore. We will put it right there. And we'll put one right outside of this zone of where the water's at. I don't want to shock myself. Which means I do need another one of these bad boys right Here? Oh, it turns this on too. I didn't even realize that. That looks really nice, actually. Cool. Will this work? Okay, so I have to do it inside. That's fine. I need to get you some kind of lights for indoors. What do we have for indoor lights? What do we got? We have lamps. We have wall lights. These are pretty nice, actually. We'll do this. I might need the crystal ball. I don't know if... Actually, the Pokeball might not have walls to put that on, so we will... We'll maybe grab a desk light, actually. I don't have space. I need to put some stuff away. Put some lumber away. We'll put some brick away. Put some of this away. We'll have plenty of that. I'll put this away. I need to just plant these flowers, speaking of. Hope everybody's having a good night, by the way. Make myself a desk lamp. I might need a desk in the actual house, so let me make a desk to be safe. I'll go for a study desk. Pretty chill night with you. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm not talking as much as I should, just because my throat kind of is bothering me. This work? Yeah. Yeah, so you can't put that down. That's fine. I think, and then we'll put the desk here. We'll put the lamp like that. That should work for now. One thing I dislike about the Pokeball houses is they're round, so you can't like put things on the wall. Alright, what do you got, buddy? Cool, we're good. I know Duskull wants dark, but he can go in here and it's fairly dark as is, and he can turn off the lamp if he wants. Like, he can do this and it's dark for him. Oh my gosh, shut the fuck up. You're chill. Hey, what's up? Actually, what does Cyndaquil want? I want to make Cyndaquil's life better because he also has very iffy. You want relaxation? Okay. What do you like? Fire, fabric, slender stuff, metal stuff. Right. Metal stuff, so iron bed. Wait. Excuse me. We'll put your bed right there. I'm sorry to make you stop talking, but I got you a bed. Aww. Sorry to wake you up, but I want to make sure this isn't what you wanted. It is, we're good. Alright, Vulpix needed something. Is Vulpix around? Or is Vulpix? No, I don't think Vulpix is around actually. I like how the fan is so comfy for people that they just fall asleep in front of it. Who else needs comfort actually, thinking about it? Honey, hype it up, that's easy. The Vulpix, Ninetales, Alakazam. The two birds that are not even close to me. We'll go Vulpix. Since they live like right here. Where are you, buddy? What do you like? Decoration, okay. What do you like? It's really hard to remember what people like, so I gotta find out. Fire, soft, cute, round. Pretty flowers. Decoration, flowers. That's really easy, actually. I have a lot of like pots and stuff that I can make them. Like potted plant things. Where is it? What do I need for that? Did I not make it? I thought that I could. Hello, gifted us up, so saying hi. Hi! Yeah, somebody was going a little crazy with gift subs, let me be honest, so, but enjoy the sub, and thanks for stopping by to say hi. How are you doing? Welcome in. Do you watch VTubers much? What made you get the gift sub? Where is the little potted plant that I wanted? Who the fuck? This thing. Exploding Ghost. I like that name, by the way. There you go. Hi, Amachi. How's it going? Happy Thursday. Think you've seen before, and thank you. Oh, nice. Cool. So we got that. I need to put some. I need to make some adjustments to what I have in my inventory. Start placing things down. I have too much like random blocks. Things on from the community or yeah. Like, that's why I'm assuming like. I'm assuming maybe yeah, that's what I say like, oh, maybe you watch VTubers, so maybe that's how you got the gift sub, yeah. I think it'd personally be a little weird if it was just like super random, like, oh, I don't watch any VTubers. Why the hell did I get a gift sub to them, you know? What else can I put down? Oh, I need to make a hot spring fishing spot, by the way. Which my nearest hot spring is where? Rocky Ridges, I guess? Yeah. Sometimes get from some people I've never seen. I don't usually get things from people I don't follow, at least. Like, there's probably people that I haven't seen, but people that I follow are pretty much the only people that I get gift subs from. But also, I think that's because I have the setting turned off where I get, where you can get gift subs from people you have no idea existed. Know about 4 and now 5 VTubers? Nice. I'm glad I'm number 5. That means I am now in your top 5 whether you like it or not. Alright. kind of interesting. The rain itself didn't turn off the exploding effect. Oh, Haxorus is here. What up, Haxorus? Haxorus. This ought to be a fine place to sleep, I tell ye what. Who on earth could have made such a nice place? Say what? Now you made it? For me? Well then, it'd be right rude of me not to make use of it. In return, I'm glad to help you with anything you need. These magnificent tusks of mine can cut through anything. I'm sure I can help you make places to live as well. Nice. Its resilient tusks are its pride and joy. It looks up dirt to take in the minerals. It needs to keep its tusks in top condition. That's interesting. Oh, someone else is here. Who the hell is this? Who's here? Did I make a habitat over here by accident? Yo, oh, that's what I did. What's up, Rampardos? Why are you floating, my guy? Ow! Oh, sorry about that. Just tried to see my head, but you okay, bud? Seems like you're fine. That's a relief. I don't think Ditto would be fine. He's 100. He's like what, 60 base power? Or base stats. He's not fine at all. Gotta say, you felt really soft and squishy. I smashed through pretty much any hard object with my headbutt. But if we battled, I think I'd have trouble smashing through you. So we just be friends instead, yeah? Yeah. In ancient times, people would dig up fossils of this Pokemon and use its skull, which is harder than steel, to make helmets. That's cool. Brush letter dry. Want some Canada Dry, buddy? Here you go, some Canada Dry. Nope, no. Canada Dry ginger ale, buddy. Here you go. Yo, what's up? What's up, Doxman? I love how Doxman's in here, like legitimately. Alright, do I have a seat? I do not have a seat. I need to make one. And then the water is this way. Where's my minecart? I know I have one. Wait, golden thing. Oh, the music mat. I'm almost done with music mats too. So the thing about the hot spring fishing spot that I'm gonna make, I actually don't need it. I need it just for my my habitat decks, and that's it. Cushion, I think, goes right next to it. Yeah. Because I have both of these guys already, so I don't actually need it. I just needed it to that. Gotta go now. Have a good night. Thank you for stopping by and saying hi. Enjoy the emotes. You don't want that in my inventory. You just have it out here randomly. Who's singing? Polytoad must be singing. Yeah, Polytoad's the one singing, it looks like. Excuse me, Arcanine. Is that another mysterious slate? Strange strings. Oh, I can make bass guitars with that? Oh my god. Wait, where's Gimme Ghoul at? Speaking of. What do you want, buddy? He's saying hi to mom. Please get the fuck away. Like, legitimately move. God, stop blocking doors, man. You should know you're a gigantic piece of crap. And I don't mean giant, I just mean your big ass booty was in the way. Hello, what do you want? These areas are pretty nice. I'm gonna go look over at Pallet Town as well. Oh, mysterious slate. We're almost done with it. Never mind, we're not going to Pallet Town, we're going to Wastelands first. Somebody's here. I think this is either Decidui or... Wait, who is this? Is this Decidui? No, this isn't Decidui. Oh, it's Fable. Goodness me, what an adorable little visitor. You know what I was thinking this whole time as I listened to your footsteps approaching? That they sounded familiar to human footsteps, only just a little off. And who could they belong to? Never would I guess that it was a ditto who's transformed into a human. You gave me a start, sure, but I'm happy to make your acquaintance. Said to live in quiet, remote mountains, this type of fairy has a strong aversion to being seen. I need to make this as well, even though I'm basically done with it. Hype trade sour. You have hype as well? Sour's Aspire. There we go. Up. Because I do know there's a chance. I think Decidui has a chance to spawn up here because I set up a house for it. It's this rocky habitat, actually, specifically. Can I take the whole rock and move it? I can. I already have these all set up for people. There's the honey. Let's pick up the flowers because I know what I want to make. Boom. Double the chance now. Pay no attention to that random ladder that is otherwise known as the Stairway to Heaven. It is one of the 7 landmarks of this Pokemon human this world. Did I just make that up? I did. I need to try to get Toxtricity here because I know one of them requires that bass guitar. think I have 4 mysterious slates left after this one that I get to put down. Might be 3. Make that maybe 2. Wait, is this the same one? Wait, this is the same one. Usually the slates take up different inventories. Did I really get 2 of the same mysterious slate? Let's go find out. Hi Blossom, bye Blossom. Is it I? Is it N? Sorry. Wait, what? Sorry, is it L? Is it N? Or is it the exclamation points? Taking a look at it, it looks like it's actually going to be the L. Oh, it's a K, that's why. I couldn't see the fucking thing at the end. I saw that and I'm like, oh, it's an L, but then going closer to it, nope, that's a K. I have 2 Ks, that's interesting to me. Oh, okay, it's worthless, so we put it right there. And you get copper ore, which that's I think the Clefairy doll. Do I have a Clefairy doll somewhere? I might have. It might be over here with Slowbro. It's Evie. Never mind. I lied. Me when I lie. I know that there's one back at the Skylands. I just wanted to double check. Oh, I need to get my berries that are here. Look at him wiggling. Oh yeah, I need to try to get the different gastrodons too. I need to get some warm liquids in me once the stream's over in a bit. We're gonna check out Palatine and see if there's anything that I missed. So anybody you spawned? Oh, Stormax is here. What up? There's this Clefairy doll here too. Nice. Grumble, grumble. No, relax. No, what? Oh, I thought I was eating some yummy food, but I guess it was just a dream. Huh? Oh, hi. How long have you been there? Oh, I guess it doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything other than eat and sleep. When prompted to make a serious effort though, it apparently displays awesome power. It is 6'11". It is not as tall as some NBA players. 1,000 pounds though. You like dry flavors? Of course you do. I still really like how Metagross is the one that had the gaming setup. Alright, we go here because I need copper. Here's where copper is. There's also a chance we can find Suicune. I should also get a little bit of limestone just to have on me because I don't have any limestone anymore on me. Looks like Pokemon X Animal Crossing. That's just me. Try to leave, but I'm lazy. Listen, if you're gonna be here forever, if players are lazy, that's fine. It is, if you don't know the specifics of it, it is very much Pokemon X Animal Crossing. A lot of people have actually compared it to Dragon Quest Builders, which is a little bit more involved. But yeah, like in like the most simplest, like if you know Nintendo, you know Nintendo. It is Pokemon Animal Crossing. Is somebody here? Doesn't look like it, but I'll still check the caves anyway. Is it only on the Switch? It is. One way you could tell is it involves Pokemon. It's absolutely only on the Switch. Switch 2 potentially even. I don't actually know that one. Don't quote me on that. Burying too much stuff, so these flowers can go away. Metal chain. How oddly metal of you. I don't need this diddle doll. I have too many of them. Actually, no, these are rare. Like they're not always there. I need that. Bummer. Yeah. I think it might be. I think it is Switch 2 only. I'm not 100% on that though. Don't quote me on it. God, everything here that I have, I kind of want to keep. I guess these flower seeds I don't give a flying fuck about. I know what I don't want. I just never thought about it. It is these. Excuse me. Sorry for all the coughing. My throat's just really dry, and it's I don't think I'm sick. My throat's been dry. I might be getting sick is like the biggest thing. Wait, there's no like yellow balls around here like there usually is. There's always a signpost here though. That's interesting. Alright, I'm assuming there's gonna be habitats down here then. Like habitat markers. The fuck? There we go. There's a note. I wanna go swimming. You know how much I love swimming. It's basically my whole personality. So not being able to swim, it's the worst. I need to get back out in the water. I'm sure you feel the same way, Maggie. Ugh, I'm so tired of living like this. How long till we go swimming again, do you think? Love, Rory. Rory's probably dead, let me be honest. still love these songs so much. Excuse me. Yeah, I think I'm gonna be done pretty soon. My throat's getting way worse over time right now. I don't know why, it's just dry. That's how I'm feeling. Oh, fuck. Another note shopping list. Cucumber, tofu, 3 packs. Vinegar, slowpoke tail. Berry juice, toilet paper, toothbrush. Thank you. That only helps temporarily, though. This spawn sucks. There's nothing in here. I just noticed it. There's like literally nothing in this one. Does that mean that I've gotten everything in this area besides, you know, the random spawn Suicune? Is that really what's up? I'm not getting habitat info, I'm not getting like the usual house that's in here. There's usually gold Pokeballs around here, it gives you habitat info. There's usually a house, gives you an item. Or am I just, it's just like bad RNG today. I think it's just bad RNG today then. Yeah. That's fine. Saves me the trouble of doing too much in this area today. It also lets me finish stream soon, sooner, so that's good. Let me just turn in the thing, which is literally right here. What's up? Fishy clay? Yeah, I know that. Don't worry. Cool. So dailies are done. Dailies are done. I'm pretty clean on just ending for today. Yeah, we'll just be done here. So I can get myself some tea or something for my throat. Okay. Let's go back over here. Turn on my music again. Okay. We are done for today. DK64 is finito. Like I said, next week will probably just be random bullshit the Thursday. That's for the stream thing, you guys. So I think what the plan is next week is just random bullshit the Thursday. So I'll play 2 Extreme like I wanted, because again, I just want to show that game off. It's kind of funny. It's like not a bad game, it's just not good. I'll show that off. I'll probably what else? What other games do I know that I can do like just in a quick like boom fashion? Maybe more random bullshit, my beloved. Yeah, maybe more football. Maybe we'll do more Tech Mobile as well, just to, you know, keep the season alive as a stream. We never finished the Super Bowl there either, so maybe we'll get that done next week. So yeah, tomorrow I'm still gonna be here. Don't worry, unless somehow I get worse, which is possible. I don't feel worse, but it's possible I get worse. But tomorrow should be more Mario Galaxy. We'll finish up like the 3rd world and then the 4th probably. But yeah, so tomorrow we got more Mario Galaxy. Thank you guys for being here, and also thank you guys for all the gift subs. I pressed the wrong button, but that's fine. You guys get some boobies for a second. There you go. Thank you for the compiness. Yeah, thank you guys for being here. But yeah, we are 10 away from my next emote slot, so I don't know. If you guys are feeling generous, feel free to do that, and I'll let you guys choose what emotes you guys want. Out of the ones that either I have, or if I don't, maybe I'll get you guys the options. But yeah, I'll get tomorrow with Mario Galaxy. All right, bye guys, have a good night.